Welcome everybody to the second episode of the 2021 Americas series. This episode is kindly sponsored by Xactpro. Before I hand over to our stellar lineup of experts, I have some housekeeping items. Firstly, this episode will be run under the Chatham House ruling, which is no quotes or recording without permission. If at any time you have a question that you would like to ask our panel, please use the Q&A function, which is found at the bottom of your screen. Towards the end, we'll be offering, if you would like to ask a question live to our panelists, we will use the raise the hand function and we will unmute you. I'm delighted to hand over to Kirill Zagoruko from Xactpro for the intro. First, we have a short video.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for the introduction. I'm happy to see you all at this webinar today. And we at Xactpro are happy to support this event. Xactpro is proud to be a global premier member of the fixed trading community. We as a company work with major financial institutions in many countries around the world. And most of our clients rely on fixed protocol as an integral part of their daily business flows. And we see our mission as a company in providing unbiased information about software defects and ensure that the resilience of our clients, complex distributed transactional platforms. Thomas, who is on the panel today, will probably mention some things that we as a company do to support this mission by following the data-driven approach and providing the AI capabilities through TH2, our new test automation framework. Another important step in this direction is to listen to the voice of the community and the industry. And what's great about fixed trading community is that it brings up the questions for discussions that are the most relevant for the financial services industry. Emerging technology is being rapidly adopted by financial organizations, but what's important to know is a possible trade-off involved in this as part of this innovation. Today, we have the excellent opportunity to hear some points of view from the industry as the panel participants discuss the current tangible applications of AI around fixed protocol related business flows, and as well as possible risks of bringing the new technology in and the ways to mitigate them through software testing. Thank you again for joining, and over to you, the panelists. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kirill. I'm just going to hand over to Lou, who's the moderator of this panel and is co-chair of the Americas Regional Meeting. Over to you, Lou. Thank you.
Thank you, Naomi. Thanks to the folks joining today. Also, our esteemed panelists. We have a good lineup today. The rise in emerging technology in the electronic trading world, or if I look at it from an investment viewpoint, how is emerging technology being used? How can you control the adoption or the the evolution and design and deployment of technology through some of the tools that we'll talk about today. With that, I want to start with just one quick thing. Bringing everybody together today is really, in a virtual way, very promising, recognizing that we're still dealing with complexities around the world with COVID. I will just want to take a moment just for everybody to recognize and think about our partners around the globe, especially in India today. They're dealing with challenges that are unique in that region. And to be able to then just be focused on helping where we can and giving relief in ways, in shapes that we know we have the opportunity to do with our partners there, with our teammates, et cetera. So just a recognition of coming together to help with that effort. Thank you very much for continuing to be focused on that. With that, I'm going to hand it off to my panelists. I'll take them through to introduce themselves and their firms, really what their focus is, and then evolve that into the conversation today in terms of how they fit into provide solutions to allow for emerging technology to advance. And in some instances, actually give examples of how emerging technology is being supported or being designed, deployed from their viewpoints in a variety of ways. With that, I'll go right through the screen. Tom, if you don't mind saying hello, tell us what you do.
Hi, Lou. Thank you. I'm Thomas Toller. I'm based in the New York Metro, responsible for US operations for Xactpro. I work with the clients and on new business development in North America. For those of you who don't know, Xactpro has a team of over 600 testers and developers who build software to test software. We support exchanges, brokers, and other financial market infrastructure with functional operational testing and data distribution, trading, risk management, and market surveillance systems. My background includes managing prop trading firms, and then prior to that, working for low latency and DMA broker-dealers in the US, UK, Europe, and Asia over the last 20 years. So I'll hand over to the next panelist.
Thank you, Tom. Dennis, we'll move right across the screen. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Dennis Ignatovic, and I'm a co-founder, co-CEO of Imantra. And we're an AI startup that's specializing in automated reasoning, which is area of AI dedicated to analysis of algorithms. So a lot of these techniques that we're bringing to finance have existed for a long time in safety critical industries like avionics and hardware manufacturing, where you have to reason about really systems that can be in infinitely many complex scenarios. And for a long time, it was impossible to take these advances and apply them to financial software because the science really wasn't there for us to be able to scale it. But thanks to recent advances over the past 10 years, we now have this technology that is now used by global leading investment banks. We have incredible partnership with Itiviti, for example, where this AI is fully integrated into Itiviti's suite of products, including Conductor, where we're now able to take complex fixed specifications, automatically translate into mathematically precise formats, and then use this type of AI to analyze all of the edge cases, then transform into something that the conductor understands. And really, this is such an exciting event for us because this is the first time we're really talking about these results in this way. And the results we've been able to achieve with Itiviti, where we've taken a process that before this was really manual, it could take up to 6 months or so, and really compressed it down to a few days, and not only made it faster, but also brought unprecedented rigor to the whole process. So FIX is one of the areas, but really we think that finance is on the verge of what we call digitalization of various protocols, rules, requirements for algorithms. And the great thing that finance really doesn't see right now is that there is a science for these things, which we're bringing, and that's very exciting. Thank you.
Dennis, thank you. And that's a good handoff. George, maybe pick up from there. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Lou. Hi, everyone. My name is George Rosenberger. I am the Global Head of Strategy for Client Connectivity Solutions at Itiviti. So Client Connectivity Solutions consists of all of our fixed technology, our fixed engines, whether they be deployed or managed. We probably account for about 44% of all fixed engine usage around the world. In addition to fixed technology, I also oversee our NiFix order routing network, which is the largest spoken hub order routing network in the world, and our advanced testing and certification software, some of which Dennis mentioned with Conductor. And I am excited to be part of this panel, and Itiviti is always anxious and excited to work with the Fix community because we do focus a lot around Fix. If you look at our organization, we really have three core areas: connect, trade, and automate. And basically everything under connect is really my remit. So that's where I try and focus my efforts, and excited to be part of the panel.
Thank you. Nino, I like that they have us paired on the screen. We represent the investment manager focus in this conversation. Both our firms have, I'll say, DNA in technology. And so do you mind saying hello? And
Yeah, thanks, Lou. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nino Sarwano. I'm responsible for our emerging technology research and open innovation at Capital Group. We're a very small unit within the firm. We are highly focused on researching and really capitalizing and help teams within Capital to accelerate the adoption of emerging technology. The way that we do that is that we partner with firms that we have on this panel, early stage companies. We work very closely with the VC community. We work very closely with partners like BlackRock and some of our strategic partners and consortiums. We're as a small unit, but we have a quite wide operating range within Capital as well as the ecosystem. So we love to support the Fix community, and looking forward to share some of our perspective today with this esteemed panelists.
Thank you. And Stephen, I'll inflate you a little bit and say, we saved the best for last, but take us home here, and we'll get started in the conversation. Thank you.
No, I appreciate it, Lou. I'm sure this is a familiar face for you, as typically you share the stage with my identical twin brother, Gabino. So, but thank you. And I first want to thank the Fixed Trading community for having me, and Xactpro for sponsoring the event, for making these things like this possible. So, for those of you that don't know, my name is Stephen Roche. I'm the president and co-founder of Sapphire. We're pretty well known to be in the pre-trade onboarding space to help speed up that process using our 67 patents and our AI technology with workflow. That's quite intuitive. But what we're also doing is we're pretty much trying to establish a iCloud of sorts of client reference data that we're also going to be providing as benefits to the trading and post-trade space.
Excellent, thank you. And just if we summarize quickly, I mean, artificial intelligence, NLP, cloud computing, all things that are obviously very important for us today. This panel, ironically, and this wasn't by design, I just realized it, BlackRock has a connection to every single firm on this panel today in terms of partnering or finding new ways to partner, to bring information together, to really follow an investment through the life cycle, bring it to finality in terms of trading, to post-trade, asset servicing, to allow us, or pre-trade through trading to the end, to allow more efficient and more robust processing, so that we as investment managers or our counterparties and custodians can bring our fiduciary responsibilities and why we're hired to the end investor. Really, at the end of the day, this is about bringing more efficiency into the end-to-end things that we do to support those clients. So thank you all for coming in today into this panel discussion. Privileged to be partnering with you, not here, but also elsewhere outside this this panel. The thing I'd like to do quickly is recognize two things. It's about emerging technology, but it's also, it does have a focus on how AI is being used to facilitate testing, like Xactpro highlighted, or Tom right out of the gate. So we're going to touch on that, but we wanted to let the panel expand it into other things that they're doing that obviously fit into the emerging technology focus. In order to get kicked off, just if I start with you, Stephen, and y'all can then we'll go reverse order. Just tell us about what have you been doing in the last year? What is your focus? It's hard to avoid in this environment that we're still dealing with some challenges in the world. How are you evolving those challenges into solutions? And then we'll go maybe into after what you're focused on getting through this period of time. then lining up the solutions to then be the next part of the conversation. Stephen, what have you seen in the last year? What are your clients thinking? How are you adapting to this new environment that we're in?
Yeah, we're adapting quite well. We're a cloud-based solution, so it kind of fits well with this remote work environment and trying to still have everything work seamlessly. So, when we're looking at emerging technologies, AI is one of those technologies that are going to help. It's overarching, term that includes, RPA, robotics process automation, or rules process automation, all the way through machine learning. And what you got to keep in mind is the lower down the spectrum on AI, the less intervention, human intervention needs to be involved, and make sure you have clean, proper data. The higher on the machine learning spectrum you get to, the more you have to be diligent on cleaning that data so that machine learning can interpret it. I mean, we're not looking at Skynet yet. We're not at that point where it can look at the English language, understand the nomenclature of that, and never mind the nomenclature of how financial institutions speak. When it comes to how firms communicate, we see things pretty siloed between pre-trade, trading, and post-trade. And emerging technology is going to help us get to T0, and a conduit for that is the FIX protocol. So the challenge with FIX that I've been seeing is that a lot of it has been used mainly for trading, and on the trading side, you want to keep the messages short, obviously for latency and speed and of execution and getting a good pricing on those trades. But you're missing other information that you would need. And what we're looking at from our perspective is perhaps what we want to do, or we're looking to argue with some people how to put together, is collecting a full context fixed message in the pre-trade space. When I talk pre-trade, I'm not talking about pre-allocation where some people in this conference might be thinking. I'm speaking about having all the standard settlement instructions, having the custodian accounts, the broker accounts, the buy-side fund account numbers or short codes, even for sophisticated trades like derivatives when it comes to CSAs for collateral. All that information is collected up front in a full context fixed message that can then be re-leveraged later in the post-trade. And that with an AI can help us get closer to T0.
Thank you, Stephen. And Nino, just from challenges, headwinds, what are you seeing in the last year? What are you thinking about further out?
Yeah, I'll cover quickly three things that we're continuing to see as challenge, whether that's within Capital Group or some of our partners are dealing with in terms of maybe specifically AI and machine learning, because there are other emerging technologies to Stephen's point and what you brought up. In the case of machine learning, we continue to see the number one challenge really about understanding how to use it. It sounds very simple and fundamental, but that continues to be the challenge. And then related to that is really about the business case. How do we think about the business case about using some of these technologies, which in some cases, you're going to have to go through a version 1.0. Version 1.0 may not get you the result that you want in day one. So how do you frame a business case in which sometimes the return may not be immediate? So that's number one, understanding the use case and understanding the business case. The second challenge that we're seeing is really around the enterprise adoption. As much as we all love about emerging technologies and how they can change the world, but ultimately at the end of this technology, there is a human controlling and using these technologies. So what we're seeing, even within our firm, is that how do we present the technologies in a way that is easy to use? I think one of the panelists during the introduction mentioned about intuitive. That's a key thing that we're always looking for. We want to shift away from words like AI, ML, robotics, or automation into the words that truly meaningful about making jobs of our associate to be easier. That's the bottom line. So how do we focus on enterprise adoption? How do we think about change management? How do we make sure that our leaders, the operators of this technology, is very very comfortable using those technologies? Because at the end of the day, there is a driver behind that automated driving car, right? So number three, it's going back to what Stephen as well mentioned, which is the engineering of that solution. So yes, there's multiple components to that. But the number one challenge still very much about data. Whether you're using supervised techniques or unsupervised learning techniques, data is still very much the number one. For companies that have a high volume transaction, that might be easier to be able and take advantage of a lot of the data. But for companies that may not have the volume of transactions, that could be a challenge. So I think we continue to see companies that are thriving are companies that have the ability to uniquely collect as well as generate enrich proprietary data. So, if you're looking for or to partner with an AI-based company, that's probably something that you want to get deeper on in terms of how that company collect and gather their data to make their solution unique. So those are the three challenges that we're facing within Capital Group. We're continue to remove some of those barriers. We're doing a lot of education in terms of how people could be a lot more technology savvy. To your point, Lou, we're both of our firms are continuing to be a lot more technology savvy. So we're also educating people in terms of how to become more data literate. It sounds very simple, but then again, this is something that we believe could help the adoption of the technology broadly. So my team is focused on all of that, but as well as we love working with early stage companies, and part of the reason is because not only that we believe we can help them, even though that we may not end with an agreement or sales, if you will, but we believe we can help them in many different ways. And we have a systematic process called FinTech Wave, in which we able to work with more than 700 companies over the last 2 years. So I think those things are some of the vehicles that we're using to better understand, as well as take advantage a lot of the technology early. You have to take advantage. You have to experiment this, because otherwise, you can't really learn. You can't really learn without really testing and using some of this early.
I love the way you touched into, whether you're an investment manager or you're a capital markets business or you're a servicing bank. Really, in the essence of financial services today, we're all technologists. It's technology. Most of the evolution of financial services has been driving new products or technology to make investing more efficient and to then manage risk better for our end client to meet their goals and needs in terms of the reason why they bring us together and hire us. So thank you for talking about that. George, good segue. I mean, Itiviti has a lot of things that you do, large client base. What is Itiviti thinking about from the challenges? What are your clients bringing in over the last year? What are the challenges you're trying to help solve?
Sure. Thanks, Lou. Certainly the remote working environments created increased stress for firms and challenges. When you look at simple operations like client onboarding, right? Client onboarding was a challenge when we were all together in the same office, and now everybody's distributed. So you're trying to chase people down for statuses, trying to understand where things are. Machine learning really helps in that process. And some of the stuff that Dennis's team's been able to do has been pretty remarkable in supercharging, our onboarding software. I think Nino said it best in that, you want to find the right mix of business expertise and technology know-how, right? And that's what we've been able to do, is identify the need and then find the experts who can help bridge a gap and solve for that challenge, right? So right now, what we're seeing are firms need to be able to operate more efficiently. And the way they do that is by using software that can leverage machine learning so they could do more tasks simultaneously with better precision, better results, improved quality, get to market sooner, realize revenue faster, all the things that firms want, right? Because onboarding queues tend to be the biggest bottleneck for brokers to receive revenue from new customers. So if we can help break that process down and get to market quicker, brokers can realize revenue faster, client satisfaction goes up, everybody's happier in the equation. So we've really been focusing our efforts around that onboarding process and integrating machine learning into it.
Hey, George, thank you. And it's resonating now. The use of technology and emerging technology to allow for our human capital to be deployed on more consultative, more client-focused things. It's human capital and technology blending together to allow for that, and naturally has been very successful in terms of the difficulty we've seen in the last year. When that converges the right way, then we have good results like we've seen in terms of maintaining what we do through these very difficult times. Dennis, I'll hand it to you to give a view.
Thank you very much. And thank you, George, for that segue. In terms of the headwinds for us, is number one, the most important is from a scientific perspective, because the word or the term AI is just so overloaded, and unfortunately, a lot of the hype that people get accustomed to is really what kind of in the tech community people refer to as solving hello world problems. And you can take a great idea from academia and apply it to let's say 70% of the fixed world. But then the last 30% will take you a few years to really make sure that you have a push button solution that, as George mentioned, not in toy examples or something just for the videos or for the website, but really something where Ignatovic has world-class asset manager client coming in and saying, listen, we have this workflow and we have large trading firms connecting us, and it's really, the software is really as complicated as it gets. How do we harness the power of this science to it, and really making sure that the thing works when you press a button and just stuff happens by magic, so to say, and AI is used this way? That has been our biggest challenge, because we're creating science really along the way. So I think that's the first thing and foremost, is we've been really making sure and working on having this make actual real world impact. So we have these statistics like before and after, and it does take a while to scale it to make sure it works. So that's the first. The second is I think even when we're talking about AI, the kind of in a sense the dilution of the meaning of AI has also been somewhat of a headwind, because when George, for example, talks about before and after experiences the clients have, we can have these statistics where we're taking something that used to take 6 months, now it's like 2 days. But I think when other people refer to AI, they don't have anything like that. But now we have to explain that, like, listen, when we talk about AI, we actually have AI, and it's used from the beginning to the end. It really transforms the whole process. It's not just there, kind of to polish some part of the process, but the rest is manual, like it used to be. So that's, in terms of messaging, that for us is, I think, one of the biggest headwinds, is really kind of differentiate. Not all AI is the same. And third and foremost is really, and this is, I think this goes to the way that you introduced this discussion, is really, this is more than just about testing. And we strongly believe that, and we have actual revenue to back this up, is that once you transform your processes into something that is precise, it's explainable, it is rigorous, it's tested, it's, all of these things, there is actually significant revenue opportunities to be captured. And something that we've been working on for the past 2 years is really taking our, technology that has the original mission was really QA tested, governance, explainability, and really flipping it around into just something that is revenue generating. And that has been very successful with our clients. And I think that's ultimately the way to really make this technology be adopted quickly, is by going to the stakeholders and saying, listen, everyone wants rigor testing, but ultimately, how does this connect it to the bottom line? And
yeah.
So
sorry, Dennis.
To finish, but that's what I felt like you started out with, and I think this is the theme that we're seeing and we're pursuing.
There's a common denominator in the conversation up to this point, where the opportunity to drive more return on investment and the speed of adoption of technology. Technology is very costly to design and deploy. And when we're using AI, like you're describing, to be able to allow that cycle of development and deployment compress, then the return on investment naturally goes up, and we can capitalize now that technology in new ways, back to the core reason, why we're here, to serve those clients. generating revenue or lowering costs kind of go hand in hand in that ROI equation. It's a really excellent point. Tom, you want to expand on challenges, views that you're seeing directly inside Xactpro or your clients?
Yeah, thank you, Lou. This is an interesting topic. So on COVID, we were actually already remote from client sites in most cases. So we were able to, at least for the client perspective, make that shift seamlessly. Obviously, there was a lot of hard work behind the scenes, I'm sure, with everyone's firm to get their own people set up remote. So technology and software in particular is really getting more complex. And so as is the case in general tech, what we're seeing is clients trying to move from the longer and larger waterfall style software development to more sort of agile methodologies. So while in some areas of tech, you see the sort of move fast and break things approach, our traditional client base has remained focused on the sort of end-to-end testing and operational resilience. And at the same time, we've been working with new clients who are in the digital asset space and who are actually looking to have their system performance and resilience tested to the same standards as regulated exchanges, rather than trying to sort of live in that tech world. They're having to, I guess, merge in that sense. I'd say it's also a subtle change, but what we've seen is an evolution of our clients who are operating in the kind of evaluation and proof of concept mode around things like distributed ledger technology from firms like R3 Corda, DA, and Hyperledger, to now working on projects that incorporate that tech into real world applications. So just to round it off, I'd say like a real world example is a digital asset exchange that we've been working with, who are actually implementing distributed ledger for the settlement and back office. So they're kind of merging that in, aside from the asset being a new asset, they're actually trying to implement that technology into the post-trade side of things as well.
Tom, I'm glad you ended on that point, because there's a whole host of different technologies being applied today, whether that's AI, distributed ledger. That'll lead us nicely into the next section or next set of questions. I'll summarize though from what I'm hearing from the panel, and we have evidence of this. In the last year, the response to COVID was very quick. We moved into this new strange world of being almost 100% remote. The reliance on technology actually accelerated as a result. There was a lot of planning for business contingencies to allow for us to seamlessly transact, but we never anticipated such an extreme to what we had to respond to. The industry, with your help on this panel, and sounds like consistent with your views from your clients' views and what you're doing, had a really good response. We stabilized quickly. And then we moved back to kind of what we're talking about today in a very quick fashion, to innovate or thrive. And I'll close with some of the things you guys brought together in the conversation was really, when you think of technology, and then naturally you go to resiliency, stability, and platform performance, RSP, we've seen here, our investments in technology have actually paid off. What happened in the last year, the silver lining is we've been able to accelerate then the return on investment. We're seeing new ways to extend that. And RSP is not just about the platforms or technology, it's about the people. So we have resiliency, stability, and performance for platforms and people kind of converging at the same time. And so, I thank you for all your views there. And we can say over the last year, with the volume and the volatility extremes that we've seen, we have real tangible evidence of we're managing through that by using technology. And one of the questions that came in as we're speaking through the panel at this first point was like, volumes and how volumes are meaningful in terms of some of the things we're talking about today. When you look back in March of last year, when, as an example, we saw such a roiling in the market and volatility in the different markets, but, very, very specifically in ETD, those volumes and volatility were so extreme. Most of that moved through from a volume standpoint through the end of the year to where we are today. And so, financial services actually had an upswing in actually creating more opportunity and having to serve more clients. And as a result, the volumes keep going higher. So I think it's meaningful from all the things we're talking about today, and will only become more meaningful. Okay. With that, let's get in. So I'm going to switch it up a little bit, and really want to talk about now where you're seeing tangible examples to advance your ideas, and how that fits into emerging technology, and how does that layer into Fix. So there's a natural opportunity that Fix presents to allow that standardization of data. We talked about data. We talked about adoption. We talked about rethinking how data is connected through a life cycle of things. How do we leverage that? But also, how are we applying that emerging technology in the context of then tangible things? I have a soft spot for investment managers, so I'll start with you.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you start with me, but I think maybe I start with more of a broad view, and then the other panelists can be more specific in terms of the impact on FIC. I think for us, obviously Dennis touched on some of the applications of AI ML. I think in the context of software testing, I think we see a lot of value there. For us, we definitely are seeing a lot more broader adoption in the enterprise, but it's still very much in early days. We see a lot of, I call it the narrow AI, which is basically a very high performance single task AI ML solution that you can already use today. I mean, you can see many examples already. But in terms of what we're doing, we're using a lot of one area that we're continue to be excited about is actually natural language processing. Natural language processing for us, I mean, as investment manager, as a researcher who reads a lot of documents, who talk to many people, we believe that that's the next generation of opportunities in terms of how we can leverage a lot of the NLP capabilities, given that in 2018, sort of like the watershed moment of NLP with the invention of BERT and transformer models. So I think we believe that the use of natural language processing in search, in recommendation system, whether you're in a marketing space, whether you're in a research space, whether you're in a post-trade analysis space, whether you're generating client reports or whatnot that move away from a very basic reporting to a more of a storytelling type of report, we believe natural language processing and generation is going to be the next big space for us. So we see a lot of application throughout all of our value chain, as well as how we interact with customers, whether it's in our call center, whether that's in the form of digital assistant. But those are the areas that I want to highlight specifically, because I know the rest of the panel is going to cover sort of like the application of ML and pre-trade and post-trade and perhaps trading related to the fix.
It's a good segue. George, I'm going to cue you up, and Dennis, maybe you can contrast each other in terms of that point that Nino just made.
Thanks, Lou.
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, so for us, it's core machine learning, right? It's being able to apply those machine learning techniques to do things better and faster. I mean, a couple examples, we do something called rule synthesis when we're converting connectivity clients over, where we're able to take logs in and logs out and systemically take a look at it, analyze it, interpret what changed on that message. And then the great thing with Fix being such a standard, even though there's different dialects of it, is it's easy to write printers that can actually inject the rules to do any type of Fix transformation or any type of Fix analysis that we need. So the beauty of Fix being the standard is we can easily digest that data versus having to understand all these different message types and what they mean, and then create the dialogues internally with it and match that to our system. Fix makes it very easy to be interoperable with it. I mean, Dennis, do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, no, absolutely. What George just said, it's really remarkable when we think about, how people have done it historically, where you go through, sometimes thousands of messages, especially for these bigger clients. And, you go from this world where this was very manual, this obviously error prone because we all make mistakes, into something that you just run the script. And obviously the script has, behind it many years of R&D, but it's able to identify all of these patterns automatically generate source code that is mathematically precise, it's explainable, and then translate it into something that fits into the the certification software, the Conductor product, and also has a lot of these edge cases and all. It's basically from the beginning till the end, the whole process has become automated and really just changes entirely the process. And George, like, what are some of the metrics and the stats that we have from them? I remember there's some stuff that we're sharing publicly.
Yeah, I mean, we've gone from honestly creating hundreds of different test scenarios where it would have taken up to 6 months to really compress that amount of work down to under 5 days using, Amandra's automation. So really staggering the turnaround time, right? And
another good example
yep.
of the application of technology to compress, whether that's volume or complexity, into a more robust. Tom, I mean, the panelists have done such a good job up to this point, and we're running close to time. We still have about 10 minutes. Tom, maybe one of the core things you're working on do you see is emerging that's really important that you guys are excited about? Then we'll end with Stephen kind of bringing us home.
Yeah, I mean, in the core product in TH2, a lot of it echoes what Dennis and George were talking about in terms of, the large data sets and being able to, mine the traffic, whether it be between a test system and a prod system, and see what the differences are. I would say just to add a little different flavor, another example where we've actually used it in a recent project, and it was actually more academic in nature, and it was our CEO, Joseph Itkin, who presented the findings last week to the Fixed Protocol Most working group. They actually took, the common problem for everyone, they took 900 publicly available documents, which was about 1,000 megabytes of, fixed specs and other specs from all the exchanges, and just analyzed that and put it into, with machine learning. They converted it to machine readable text and then analyzed it. And we're just from looking at those raw docs, we're able to identify that there were, a number of ambiguous words in there. So common words were things like few and reasonable and several, which, aren't precise and don't really help when you're trying to do something. So the primary conclusion was that even, in the final published specifications, there's actually ambiguity to it. So, applying it to, whether it's the pre-trade or post-trade, we're taking it back even further and applying it before you even get to configuring those systems.
Tom, I mean, your background as a prop trader, obviously, you can see from front to back the importance of that, and then the application of what you guys are doing through technology to allow for that more seamless transacting through that life cycle. That's a great point. Stephen, you guys have your DNA as technologists from the start. Can you maybe zero in, if you looked at pre-trade, trade, post-trade, longer-term maintenance of data, what's one key area you see as really an opportunity to really center the industry around to create solutions for better experience from front to back? Give us one of those areas on the way out here.
One of those areas, I mean, to me, just the theme here, right? FIX is a standard for the industry, and that can't be disputed. We know blockchain and smart contract solutions are out there, but why reinvent the wheel when FIX has existed for decades already and been widely adopted? So, what we're looking at is, FIX provides a standard to message this data. And what we're looking at is mapping that data to help translate and normalize it, taking the same message and cutting across pre-trade trading and post-trade. Right. So like what George, Dennis, and Xactpro are doing is great on the last mile of automation and getting the execution and settlement of every trade. And at the same time, I think what I want to get across to people here is what we want to do is also look at taking this back to the source and understanding the trading relationship hierarchy matrix of getting that, data and message, right and up to date. Even when it comes to our side on the pre-trade side, the asset servicer or custodian and the broker dealer, they're siloed, right? And their information that they're getting and they're inputting from spreadsheets and emails into order management systems are separate, and they may be out of date and not in sync. So when you go down in the trading process, you may be using fixed messaging that's with bad data, right? And so you want to use emerging technologies like AI that, all of us are talking about here today with good workflows to get get an understanding and context of that information and have accurate information to help you understand the trading relationship between the asset servicer, broker-dealer, and the buy-side respective funds all the way through post-trade.
That's a brilliant and a good synopsis of there's a symbiotic relationship between the data standard itself and what FIX brings, and then the technology to support all the activities that start with managing risk for a client to then finality to clear and settle a trade and report it in their portfolio. Right. Really, it's a very very good view you just shared there, and it leads us nicely into then what Kathleen can take us home on. I want to thank everybody first. I mean, you really highlighted a couple of things here. One, that convergence is actually happening. The data standards exist today. There's still a greater opportunity to emerge new data sets within FIX and or adopt them further and connect them better through the life cycle. Technology is allowing for that today in an interoperable way, and most of the firms that use FIX today to digitally trade might have a lower adoption for post-trade or asset sourcing activities, or maybe don't use it at all for pre-trade when they could. And that's one of the takeaways here. How do we connect that data better, maximize the investment and return investment on FIX in new ways and shapes that we can, and then allow that to be interoperable through our partnerships with firms like on the panel today, which really are maintaining data standards and and create that compatibility. So if you can't use FIX today and you use Swift, you allow for technology to bridge the two. And that just brings more seamless transacting through that life cycle. So thank you all today. We could have spent 3 hours in this conversation. We'll converge it into probably some of the future upcoming events that Kathleen will talk about. Kathleen, why don't you take us home on that? Thank you.
Great, thanks, Lou. And thank you to all the panelists. We appreciate your participation, providing perspective on this topic. So the FIX trading community provides a platform to discuss, a wide array of topics. And Naomi's going to pop up a slide that lists the number of initiatives that are currently being driven by the FIX trading community working groups and committees. And just to give you a flavor of some of the things, Consolidated Tape Working Group, right? So this group is looking at the European Consolidated Tape, and there are fixed income and equities subgroups looking at those particular areas. There's a cybersecurity working group, which addresses challenges and the issues regarding security concerns. The FIX S technical standard version 1.1 is actually out for public review on the FIX forum, and it specifies how to use TLS protocol with FIX. The Digital Asset Working Group is working on recommended practice for the transition of transaction of digital assets for the buy side, sell side. And additionally, FIX offers Conga, which is a demonstration of a modern exchange that uses FIX semantics over SBE and JSON, along with the new FIX performance session layer. The ESG working group, this is investigating how FIX can provide support for ESG reporting. ETFs, big discussion right now, and we're at FIX looking to standardize and simplify the ETF full life cycle from creation to redemption. The FIX ATDL working group, which has been around for a while, has just recently published an updated version 1.2 RC1, and this is available on the website, and it addresses additional features and challenges that the community identified as additional needs. The Orchestra Working Group, FIX Orchestra is emerging technology for FIX that turns rules of engagement into actionable data. And as we talked about here on the call today and mentioned, the importance of connecting front to back, right? So the FIX Lifecycle and Ecosystem Working Group is looking to identify insufficient segments within the trade lifecycle and create those connections front to back. And again, another topic that was talked about here is the MOST working group within FIX, which is exploring monitoring, onboarding, and software testing, and is looking to improve the quality and efficiency of platforms to decrease the time to market. The post-trade working group is driving further automation down the post-trade chain, addressing netting and settlement. And then we also have the repo working group, which last year delivered recommended practices on trade and post-trade bilateral and tri-party repos. They're now exploring other repo items such as regulatory reporting and settlement. And then finally, securities lending. This group is looking to develop a standard set of securities lending messages, and the initial scope will be on post-trade and clearing. Now, these are just some of the initiatives that we have working at FIX Trading Community. There are plenty more, and you can just go ahead and contact the program office if you're interested in any of those or more information. So the next thing we'll talk about are some of the upcoming events. In addition to what we had today, there's on May 27th, there'll be the evolution of the OMS EMS for fixed income, FIX&R, and then followed by the, on July 17th, the evolution of OMS EMS for equities. There are global events that FIX runs. So within the EMEA region, at the end of June, we have the EMEA Trading Conference on the 23rd. This will be a virtual trading conference. And then going into fourth quarter, the Nordic Trading Briefing in November. And then for Asia Pacific, we have the Asia Pacific Trading Summit on July 8th. And then again in fourth quarter, the Singapore and Australia FIX Conference. For the next slide, in order to assist in the development and delivery of future FIX events, we encourage all delegates to participate in a survey. So if you're quick and you can capture that QR code that's on the screen right now, please do so and reply to the survey. But additionally, the links will be disseminated to everyone post-event. Thanks again to Xactpro for sponsoring this session. The FIX&R will be posted on the website and on the Fixed Trading Community YouTube channel. Be sure to check out the site for more content. Thanks to everyone again. Have a great day and stay safe.